With 1 week to go until we get the big update we've been waiting for, Nexon drops us another dev livestream discussing all the juicy bits that we've been itching to find out about it. Inside this we get a look at the new levels, the weaponry, the components, new endgame systems, and of course, Serena herself. So in this video I'll be breaking down the 3-hour-long stream, condensing all the major parts into this bite-sized video for your viewing, so if there's anything specific that you're looking for, this video will be timestamped, so feel free to be able to head to the sections that interest you the most. We've got a lot to get through, so let's get to it. So the first section that they wanted to be able to cover inside of the stream was going to be future adjustments. This included going into Ghost Bullets, Descendant Balance, Void Erosion Purge, and Core Farming. Ghost Bullets is something that they've wanted to address for a little while now, is the fact that when you shoot your gun at a certain RPM, you will find that some of the bullets actually disappear and essentially do no damage. Now this is something that's been around the community for a little while now. It was something that was intended to actually exist inside of the game to be able to stop hacks, but the main thing is that they are recognizing there are other ways they can deal with this, so they are going to be upping that limit all the way up to 2000 RPM. So if you are going into fire rate cores, you shouldn't face any issues going forward, and that should be pretty much for most of the weapons that exist across the board. Now we also have some rebalances coming to Descendants. The main thing to kind of take away from this is that we are going to be seeing Inez getting nerfed. She is going to be going down to Freyner level, which means that she's still going to be strong, she's still going to be more than capable, but they've realised that they can't really balance the content around her, because if they kind of went off Inez, it will be too hard for some of the further Descendants that are further down the list. If they balanced it off the middle section, which is going to be the yardsticks that they've called Viessa, Bunny, Haley, and Valby, then Inez is just going to absolutely blast through everything. So they can't really effectively balance the game with Inez at the current power level that she's at. So they're going to be bringing it down a tiny bit to Freyner level, still being able to perform just fine. And then essentially with anyone that's underneath the yardstick, so for example, I think that Blair, Jaber, and Ajax are going to be a few that are inside that. They will essentially be getting some balances to be able to help them out. And this is going to be probably early April. I'm expecting the main update to be around about the 17th of April, so it might be just before then through the use of a hotfix. Now through the use of also some data, they have identified that the Void Erosion Purge, most players are struggling to be able to get to level 30, so they are going to be decreasing the levels of difficulty between levels 1 to 29, and that is going to be coming on the 20th of March. This is to be able to help players get to that level 30 for the ideal endgame farm for weapon cores. The main issue that I have with this is that if they decrease it too much, because we haven't been given any numbers or any kind of like details as to what that nerf is going to be entailing, if they make it too easy, once they get to level 30, it's going to be negatively impacting public matchmaking, but I guess we'll see as to when that kind of comes in. It may only be a small thing, and players will be absolutely fine when we're going into level 30 anyways. Now coming the 17th of April though, the Purge meta will start getting adjusted. This will allow for some skill damage based characters to start being used more efficiently in those latter levels, so they're going to be collecting some feedback from the community before they start implementing it, but knowing that we do have chill weak enemies on level 30, I could definitely start to see some ultimate VSs start making their way in, and I could definitely start seeing some builds kind of doing some work inside of that content. Now as for the core farming, they're going to be monitoring core drop rates and data to be able to prepare a system so that unused cores are going to be turned into other types. So no longer are we going to start seeing a stockpile of purple cores, and we're going to be able to turn those into other kind of cores, but that's something that's going to be at a later date. We don't actually have a date as to when that's going to be implemented. Story-wise, it's going to be a sequel to the main story, so it's going to be a little while since we actually touched on that side of things, but it's going to primarily focus around Gley, and she finds clues to be able to suggest that her daughter Dia is still going to be alive. Completion of this story is going to be opening up some of these latest systems that are going to be shown in this video, as well as what was covered in the stream, so if you are looking to be able to start min-maxing some of your characters, you will need to be able to get through this new content before you can start accessing any of that. Now fortunately they did show off what Serena is going to be bringing with her next week. Now we did already know that she was a fire-based Descendant, but we didn't know what type. She is going to be a mixture of singular as well as dimensional type damage when it comes to her skills, so multi-talented is definitely going to get a lot of use out of it, and I do think that's probably going to be an instant lock in terms of her skills. When it comes to her passive though, Divinity is going to be giving us some massive stats across the board when it comes to guns, so she is going to be primarily dealing gun damage with most of her skills, and then she will also deal, she's still going to be useful to go into skill damage. It's not like Blair, for example, where it's one or the other. You will want to be able to find a nice balance of both to be able to actually get the most out of Serena, at least on paper. So being able to get 45% damage to your main guns and also your explosive attack is fantastic. 30% accuracy and 30% recoil reduction. Skill 1 though is going to be her first singular skill. This is essentially a wave of fire where you're aiming. This will do around about 669% skill power damage and it's pretty decent. It's not a huge amount, but it's still pretty good. It does have a low-ish kind of cooldown, but it does two things depending on if you hit enemies or if you hit allies. If you hit enemies, it's going to apply a special burn effect called Repentance, which is going to reduce fire resistance. Also has a chance to be able to restore ammo and also does damage over time. If you hit allies with this though, this gives Blessing, which then gives health recovery. So think of Eugen, but with some more offensive capabilities tagged on just to stand it into the skill set. Now, skill 2 is called Ascension. This is essentially going to be your flying ability, but it works similar to like Cold Fury, but also gives you additional bonuses as well while you're in the air and you're off the ground. Essentially, it reduces gravity. You also seem to help with your grapple charge time as well, so mid-air maneuvering is probably going to be the way to go with her. The crazy part is the extra effect to guns depending on the type of that shot. So if you do go for general rounds, so this is going to be your LMGs, your SMGs and assault rifles, you get multi-hit chance and damage at 50%. Impact rounds are going to get more range and MP recovery on critical hits. Specials get a huge AoE by the looks of it for up to 150% of your firearm attack damage by up to 15-meter radius, which is huge. And then high power seems to get extra damage for 550% of your skill power and a 50% increase to the additional fire damage that you're going to be doing as well. So Restored Relic might be a perfect fit for her to get the most out of this bit. Skill 3, though, is going to be the first of the dimension side of things. This is going to be called Soar. This is going to be probably the weaker side of a kit, but it's still pretty good. It is essentially a stackable skill that does some burst damage, but you're more likely going to use it for mobility, and it also reloads her gun instantly, so you don't have any downtime when it comes to that side of things. It also resets her jumps for some reason, should you need a little bit more height, so you do have that available to you as well. Now, fortunately, this skill can be used on the ground to be able to start your flight, or it can go in other directions to be able to get to places, so similar to like how Keelan has his dash, but it's just going to be way more flexible in terms of what she can do. Lastly is a skill 4, and this is going to be called Redemption, and this possibly might be the craziest kind of skill that we've actually seen in the game so far that I've read for a gun descendant. Essentially what this one does is it has two different things depending on if you're mid-air or if you're going to be on the ground. If you're mid-air, this gives you a 100% chance for firearms to do additional AoE based on 0.7% of your HP, with the AoE being 8 meters at standard and can go up to 16 meters. So this is going to do some really nasty mobbing. With how this one works with the relics, mini rockets, or the beam rifles, or even the new hand cannon in the battle pass, we're not too sure just yet. We didn't really get any of those details, but we will find out more about it next week when the batch does drop. As for on the ground though, she now becomes an ideal support, giving Prayer of Redemption for 5 seconds, which will give 5 stacks to each ally in range, and reduces damage by 18% per stack, with 1 being removed after taking a hit. So 5 stacks means 90% damage reduction for a single hit, and even crazier on that is that after each stack is removed, you then give 12% HP and MP recovery to that ally. So this is insane recovery and insane buffs to yourself. I can honestly see this is going to be perfect for throwing in veteran tactics instead. Now, as for red mods, we did get to see 2 of these. We did have Divine Surge, which changes her skill 4 to now deal knockback and damage, but also seems to apply a fire trail on the ground where she's dashed for more damage over time. This does get rid of Redemption. I don't think this is going to be the play, personally. We didn't get to see the numbers, so obviously there is still something to be said for it, but at this moment in time, I don't see anyone getting rid of Redemption anytime soon. And then the second one we got to see was called Him. This applies to a skill 3, allowing Serena to be able to buff allies' movement speed if it's used in air, or you'll be able to create a zone for increased jump height if you're on the ground. Not entirely sure how practical this is going to be, but I suppose that's a red mod for you, so it exists. Hey ho. Swapping on over to the next sector that is going to be added with all this. This is going to be called Sigma Sector. It's going to be split into 2 sections called Broken Boundary and Isolated Desert, giving both normal and hard mode difficulties. Both of these sections will play a random mission to spare the repetitive nature of grinding missions currently, so it's not like you can just grind, for example, the Shelter over and over and over and over again to be able to get the Amorphous, to be able to get items. It's now a case of similar to how if you go into 250% and then you be able to help out with other people's missions, but you still get the rewards. It's kind of like that. You do play different missions, so it's completely random. You just have no control over it. High risk does become available if you, but it does require a minimum of master rank 15 to be able to enter. So if you're 14 or below, you best start grinding out some of those levels. And then rough completion of time of these missions is going to be anywhere between 6 to 8 minutes. Of course, if we do have a really good Serena, Freyna, or Inez, this is probably going to get even faster. But 6 to 8 is essentially what they've kind of suggested to us. The reason why you want to do these missions though is this allows you to be able to farm out the materials that you need for Arche Tuning, being able to get Serena if you don't buy her from the shop, as well as all the new weapons and their materials to be able to craft. Now, Arche Tuning is available after that main quest, and the main kind of details that we got from this is that you do have a maximum of 40 points to be able to spend on the board. Now, this will be the same board going forward, you just have the one single one. There will be a change though. The one that you can see on screen right now is not necessarily the one that will be actually in the patch. It does seem like this is an old board. We did actually have a few changes, but essentially it will be the same layout for every single descendant going forward. You do have presets, so you can change it up and down depending on what you want. You do have your yellow mods or your yellow caps, which are then going to be things like increased firearm attack, multi-hit, going into reducing the amount of incoming damage that's going to be coming, extra HP, extra skill power, and also skill cooldown. I think skill cooldown at 7.5% is actually a really nice thing to be able to go for pretty much every single descendant. So I can definitely see some people actually gravitating towards that pretty much just as standard. But nodes on the way can also include things like extra attack to Colossus, obviously if you do have that value rolled onto your gun. So you can expect to hit around about 2 yellow nodes within your 40-point cap. This board will come with 3 presets per descendant, and it is going to be the same depending on if you're using a base and an ultimate form, so they will be shared across those kind of things. We also got to have a look at the new Abyss boss that's going to be making his way in and going to be replacing Defiler. This is going to be called Tormentor. This is an electric-based boss, so similar to like how we have Executioner. It's going to be weak towards toxic side of things, so potentially Freyna might be the way to be able to go, but I suppose we'll see as to how the gun descendants kind of do first. It was shown to be taken down in a minute 18 with an uncored Smithereens and Serena, so expect much faster times with optimized guns and strategies. Of course, Smithereens fully benefits from being able to have a weapon core built into it. Last Dagger is pretty much the go-to for most people right now, so I'm expecting that to be much shorter and might even be along the same kind of lines or even easier as to what Defiler was essentially boiled down to in the end. During this fight though, in case you want to know the mechanics as what was shown off, they will spawn a cube type entity which needs some damage over time to be able to take down. If it's left up, it will eventually debuff you quite heavily, but if it's taken down, it will then provide you a buff to help you with the fight, so that's one thing to do. You will also see the extra laser beams that pretty much exist around there, so obviously you've got to watch your movement at the same time as to why you're dodging the boss. So there are a few things to really kind of pay attention to, so we do have that as well. From what was shown though, it might be an easier fight than what we were expecting, but I guess we'll see fully when that patch does drop. As for the cosmetic rewards that are going to be coming with it, they are quite nice. I'm not a huge fan of the helmet, but the backpack and bodysuit are pretty good in my book, so I definitely think they're up there. Definitely not the first one anyway, definitely not against Biss Walker, so, you know, take that as to what you want. We also have the new fellow that's coming, which is going to be the hunting dog. Now, there is a bit of a change from the last kind of stream that we did have. Essentially, this fellow will actually have the auto pickup, auto dismantle, and auto refill your weapon mag at regular intervals. It didn't originally have the auto dismantle. That was going to be something specific to the sheepdog, but apparently based on feedback that they've heard from the community, they actually will keep that implied for pretty much all of the fellows that are going to be going forward. And instead, we now have a bit of a buff to the sheepdog, so we're now going to get extra HP recovery while we have that one equipped. So we have the choice between extra HP and survival, or being able to go for extra ammo, which is going to be with the hunting dog. So you can choose between the two, you can go back and forth as to what you actually need. So now we get into some more juicy stuff. We now get to look at the 4 brand new weapons that will be making their way into the game. The first of which is going to be the brand new Battle Pass weapon called the Malevolent, which is going to be ideal for mobbing. This is essentially kind of what a Perforator is doing, but much better and much more efficient at being able to deal with mobbing, rather than being able to go a little bit more single target. What this will do is when it's maxed out, it will shoot up to 3-bladed cogs off a normal shot. If you manage to hit a weak point, this will go up to 4-bladed cogs, and these will bounce between enemies for up to 5 times and deal 24% damage per bounce. What we did manage to see in terms of the gameplay and wasn't really fully explained was the fact that we are able to apply fire damage over time when used with fire enhancement. That's what it seemed to suggest anyway. Multi-hit was also shown off with the gun, so it could make this a devastating weapon if it's built right for, especially for mobbing, so I've definitely got my high hopes for this one. Ancient Knight, on the other hand, is going to be the assault rifle, which is primarily built towards what Serena's looking for. When reloaded in midair, grants float. If multi-hit is triggered in midair, it will give atonement. Float helps you with the range of the gun, so it does more damage over the further distance, and health also provides some health recovery on that reload. And then atonement is going to increase the multi-hit damage that you're going to be dealing as well. So we do have some really nice synergy inside there. It's kind of simple, but it is essentially doing exactly what you need Serena to be able to actually do from an assault rifle. Now, the one that didn't really make too much sense to me, because we didn't get to see too much of the numbers in terms of like what the unique ability is going to be doing, is going to be the ATAM sniper rifle. We didn't get to see the item card showing off what the unique effect is essentially doing, but it was described as a powerful single shot sniper, and how this one works is that the longer that you're aiming down sight, it will start consuming your MP, and then the more MP that is consumed, it will increase the amount of damage it will do when you actually fire that shot. So you've got to be able to like balance as to what is going to be the best amount to be able to take from your MP. It's primarily going to be good for any kind of descendants that don't really care about being able to choose, like, fire off their skills or anything like that. I definitely could see an argument to be able to actually go for this one. If this one's going to be stronger than the other two sniper rifles that we do have in the game, yet to be seen. But it does potentially have that going for it, and especially if you do build it right with critical hit damage and being able to go into weak point, it definitely has the potential to be able to go past that kind of side of things. So I'm excited to see what it's going to be able to do, but it will fully depend on what the maxed out stats on what that gun can actually do and what it's actually going to be doing for us. So we'll definitely do some testing on that one, just see what that's going to do for the channel. Lastly is the one that's going to be interesting me the most, and definitely one that I want to max out first and foremost, and that's going to be the Truly Deadly Arson. Essentially, this one is down as a beam rifle, but it is essentially a flamethrower because it has high penetration, which means that we're essentially going to be firing straight through enemies, especially ones that are going to be buffed up. This one applies a damage over time, but if it hits a burning type enemy, it will then turn into Inferno, and it will deal even more damage on top of that. Ideally, you want to use this with fire enhancement as well as a fire-based descendant, so Serena, Blair or Lepic, because they can easily apply burn applications. I'm thinking already that you could use this in combination with Gravity Lepic, activate your power unit charge, be able to get burn onto your grenade, being able to activate your gravity grenade, chuck the grenade into that massive pile, you apply burn to all of those, and then you just literally just burn them down with this brand new weapon. That's something that's just off the top of my head, but obviously there are probably going to be some better ways to be able to do it, and maybe even Ultimate Blair will actually bring some really nice function with his brand new red mods when he actually does drop in April. To go with our 4 new weapons, we do have 4 new component sets, the first of which is going to be the Unpredictable. It gives absolutely nothing on a 2-piece, so that's quite hilarious to be fair, but the 4-piece, it will either buff up your survival with HP and shield regen, skill descendants with more skill power and less skill cost, or firearm builds with more attack as well as faster reloads. Now, not entirely sure how useful this will be and how meta it will be because it's completely random and there's no way to be able to guarantee it, but it could be a fun one to be able to mess about with, and to be fair, Serena really does benefit from all 3 of those, so I definitely could see a shout to be able to actually just be able to use it on side of her. Crusader Knight is the next one, granting us heavy armor as a buff, and it's going to remove 1 stack when it's hit. While active though, you do then take 21% less damage each hit, and then we'll have a 10% chance of being able to purify you from debuffs, so not bad for tanky playstyles like being able to go for Kyle or Ajax. I definitely could see an argument to be able to be made for those. Sprinting is going to reduce your grapple charge times at a 2-piece, and a 4-piece then grants Agile up to 3 stacks. Each one of these is going to be increasing your movement speed by 10%, so it's going to be really nice for speed running through like dungeons and infiltrations. And then lastly, it's going to be Ascending Armory, which is going to be a 2-piece that reduces skill costs as standard, and then a 4-piece that provides more ammo when you're reloading in mid-air. This is going to be helping you out for being able to go into boss fights in terms of Colossus. It's also going to help you out in terms of general mobbing. It's ideal for Serena because obviously she can stay in mid-air from pretty much like more uptime when it comes to that, but you can essentially just get away with this at anyone really, because you can, like I said, just jumping counts as mid-air, so if you just kind of activate the reload, or you just use mid-air maneuvering or something like that, you probably could get a reload in mid-air. You can essentially use this on pretty much anyone with that side of things. Now, we did get to see some brand new weapon mods as well, but this is going to be fully capsulating the multi-hit side of things, and that's going to be the main focus. So all these mods are going to be linking to skill types for more damage or multi-shot. It's going to be mods that are purely focused on multi-shot damage and chance. And multi-hit seems to be geared towards weapons with lower critical hit chance, similar to like how we had the amp mods there not too long ago. The main purple ones are going to be affecting either your fire rate or your critical hit damage, so there are ones to be able to like decide whether you want to be able to make that decision. If you're already going into amplification mods, like for example with Python, it's already going to be a no-brainer. You might as well actually put multi-hit on there to be able to increase the viability of it, but there are obviously different ways to be able to like accommodate for that. You just got to be able to make that choice as to which weapons are going to be the best ones for this. Now, photo mode is also going to be accessible from the get-go, and that's going to be accessible through the pause menu. This is going to be bottom middle of that screen, and the camera can be moved with the movement keys and angled with the mouse, and can also cause emotes to happen when during taking photos. Plenty of options to be able to use to find that perfect shot, including things like depth of field to be able to blur backgrounds, and there's just so many things to be able to mess about with to be able to get that perfect shot. So I feel like this is going to be something I'm going to use to be able to like improve my thumbnail game and things like that. I just think this is going to be a really good thing. It's definitely a welcome addition in my books, definitely from that side of things. Customization wise now, we can now customize things like eyebrows, beards and other facial parts that we couldn't before, and similar like how with outfits we did have some bits that we couldn't actually change the colour of. Well, now that's a thing of the past, so we can now change a lot of bits from outfits that have been separated out, allowing almost full customization compared to what we had before. Now, some of you are probably curious about the Implant Module feature, which is going to be coming with Ultimate Blare. Essentially what this will do is allow you to transfer slots and activators from base descendants to Ultimate forms. So if you've used an Ultimate and you already have the catalysts in and matching slots, you will then be refunded the duplicate items. So for example, if you have an activator on both, you then get an activator back. It essentially just goes back into your inventory, you can use it somewhere else. And same with like catalyst, but the one kind of caveat that I can see with the catalyst is that it's going to do a like for like. If it can find that it's going to, like, for example, slot 2 it's got like a Cerulean mod, and slot 2 on your ultimate is something completely different, it will just put the Cerulean slot from what we can see. That's what we've seen with the stream anyway. That's what it's suggesting to me. I don't think we're just going to get that catalyst back, but either way, if you do manage to find some mods, if it does manage to go, oh, like for like, this is exactly the same, you will get all of those catalysts back. So it is a really fantastic item to be able to go for, and it's perfect just in time for Ultimate Blare to be able to get launched. Now, one thing they did want to be able to point out and stress is the fact that this item cannot be bought from the store. It will be something they will be dropping in events every single time they do an Ultimate Descendant, so I am looking forward to be able to get hold of that. The kind of future stuff and just being able to spoil some of the events a little bit later on that we will be covering. We will be getting one for Ultimate Blare leading up to it, so we definitely can transfer some of the stuff from Blare to Ultimate Blare, but we will be getting access to another one on top of that, so we will essentially just have a free one for us to be able to mess about. So if you want to go for Bunny to Ultimate Bunny, if you want to go for Sharon to Ultimate Sharon, things like that, you absolutely can get away with being able to use one of those, and you can essentially just try out the feature before you do it for Ultimate Blare. Skin-wise, we got a few new bundles coming for Haley and Glay. There's going to be new costumes as well for Serena, and even an evolving skin for Sharon. Interestingly, we also got some concept art for some future skins too, with obviously everyone's highly demanded corn suit. Don't know why that's a thing, but hey-ho, it's going to be coming. And we also have the future roadmap, so April 17th is going to be the next big update, bringing Ultimate Blare with him, along with his story and the battle meta for Void Erosion Purge for skill build, and also more components along with the system and the reroll system for those. The May 22nd one will bring more to the Arche Tuning system, so we will start seeing an expansion upon that, a new Abyss battle with Ice Maiden, the Party Finder, the physics, and also more filters and stickers to the photo mode. Unfortunately though, this all does come at a cost for the support of PS4 and Xbox One players, especially come June 19th, as of which you won't be able to play the game anymore on those. Fortunately though, the account info will stay with Nexon, so you can transfer this across with cross-saving. So if, for example, you've gone from a PS4 and you've just now decided that you want to be able to play on PC, or you've now gone into the newer gen, you absolutely can download the game again, be able to get access to your account, and then carry on playing as if nothing happened. It does kind of suck, to be fair, the fact that you've had access to the game for a year, and now they're just pulling it away from you. It leaves a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth. I'm not entirely too happy about it. I feel like that's something they probably could have forewarned about, like, before the game even dropped. But it is what it is. There's nothing necessarily we can do about that for the time being. I understand, it brings limitations for what the future content can actually be for PC and those current gen consoles, but it still kind of sucks for those players. So, I do kind of feel for you a little bit from that side. And then lastly, we do have some of the events. So we do have the Beyond Sigma event, which is going to be starting on March 13th. Allows you to be able to earn either Ultimate Bunny or 2 Haley skins for free just by logging in. This is going to be an event that's going to be lasting a while, but 14 days, doesn't have to be consecutive, and you will get access to either that top reward of Ultimate Bunny or 2 Haley skins. And then lastly, Serena Secret Operation event is going to be starting on the 13th of March, and you can earn tokens to exchange in the shop. But every single day you also get one free catalyst, so you are going to be getting some nice stuff out of that as well. So I do think there's some really good events, but it's just marred a little bit by the news that's just before it. And with all that now done, that wraps it up on all the main points of the live stream and my views of what's coming in the near future. Serena is looking insane right now for gun builds, especially when combined with the weapon cores, and I'll be surprised if the others can pretty much keep up. As for the rest of it, I'm eager to jump into the new systems, especially that Arche Tuning, and it should really help with build diversity going forward. While I understand the need to move away from the older gen consoles for the sake of the game's future, it does really suck to do it a year on, rather than just giving a taste and then taking it away. But this is the section I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on the update? Are you as pumped as me? And lastly, what are your thoughts on Serena's red mods, as I just can't tell if it's just me that's underwhelmed. Let me know all that and more down below. Massive thank you for making your way to the end of the video. As I always say, keep yourself safe, keep yourselves well, and I'll see you all on the next video.